How is everyone otherwise? Looking forward to the long weekend?
Definitely.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot more traffic. I just took me ages to come back home. Oh my God. It's like there's so many roadblocks and diversions and all sorts of stuff, but still there's a lot of people on the roads all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And, crazy.
Okay, that's working now.
Okay.
I'll be back. Just going to get the messages ready.
Sure. Hi, Jai Jinendra. I think we have a few more people joining. And as you join, you'll see in the chat that Ketan Bhai has sent the link to the book if anybody wants to download it. Jai Jinendra and good evening. Nice to see everyone. I hope we'll wait a few more minutes before we start. Jai Jinendra to everyone. Hina Ben, Kruti, Parul, everyone. Reshna Ben. Huge. Hope you're very well. Wonderful. Wonderful to see everyone. Another 3 minutes before we kick off. People must be enjoying the garden today, trying to get back in quickly. Or they're dashed off to a weekend away somewhere. Jai Jinendra, who else has joined today? Jai Jinendra Rasik Bhai. Okay, so it's nearly 8:15. I'm going to give it another 1 minute and then we're going to begin. Yes? So welcome whoever's just joined. Pratul, Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Great. We can't see your face. We can see your
Sorry,
fingers.
I'm just doing it from my phone.
Oh,
Hi.
hi. Oh, that's nice. Now we can see you. Great, great,
Yeah.
fantastic. We're just waiting up another 30 seconds and we're gonna kick off.
Okay.
And then I'm sure more people will join as they decide to come from the garden back into their room. Right. Okay, let's begin. It's exactly 8:15. Jai Jinendra, everyone. Welcome to Sri Chandna Vidyapith Friday Adult Class. We are privileged, as always, to have wonderful teachers with us. Tonight is no exception. We've got the wonderful Ketan Bhai Varia, a really long-standing teacher, hugely knowledgeable and has got a great sense of humor. Let's enjoy this evening's lecture from him. He continues with eternal wisdom and on chapter 2, part 2. So what is today about mainly? Today, he will discuss the role of the individual, or Ketan Bhai will discuss the role of the individual and in his and her place in humanity. What values are good? How should he or she serve others, and what is his or her duty? So a lot of deep thought-provoking questions. So I would like to begin first of all by asking our young Yuvraj, who has, apparently he tells me he's 11 but nearly 12, shocking really. But I would love to see Yuvraj and your handsome face. Let's kick off with the Nauka mantra this evening and welcome everybody who's just joined in the last 30 seconds. Yuvraj, over to you.
Jai Chandra.
Jai
Namo
Jinendra.
Arihantanam Namo Sitanam Namo Ayaryanam Namo Uvajayanam Namo Loya Savasahunam Eso Pancha Namo Karo Sava Pavapanasano Mangalalancha Savyasim Patamam Have Mangalam.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Yuvraj. So, without taking a lot of your time, let's begin and hand over to Ketan Bhai to start off the presentation. But just one little warning, please stay on mute. And today we're going to try, if we've got about 14 participants at the moment and a few on YouTube. So we're going to try do some breakout rooms, which Ketan Bhai and Nilesh Bhai will handle at the back end of it. So please bear with us. It's going to be an exciting evening. Over to you, Ketan Bhai.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vaishalan. Thank you. So what I want to do is really continue on this book by Amarvani, by Amamuniji Amarvani. And we are now into chapter 2. So let me just recap on a little bit about the book. So the book was written in 1973 and it's been translated. And I think the translation itself is so excellent in English. It really brings out, for me, from my point of view anyway, the clarity of what Amamuniji must have written in Hindi at the time. It's written in a very direct and easy to understand way. And it's very much about the practicalities of our life based on his experience and wisdom. I just thought, one of the things, if any of you have read the book or read bits of it, is that it really hits you as something very, very profound, almost from the first page. And it's very much, for those who read self-help books, it's very much a self-help book in many ways, but it's different. And the reason it's different is really what Yashaji Maharaj said to me when I asked her about Amamuniji's knowledge in respect to the book. She said his knowledge is so profound that is still alive today. So when we read the book, it's very much something that's very alive and with us right now. The other thing is that when someone has that deep experience and deep understanding, what he writes is not borrowed, but actually based on his own penance, learning, experience, and conduct. So everything Amamuniji writes is just written directly from his heart. He hasn't copied and pasted anything from anywhere else in this book. And the other thing that's very clear is that everything that he writes, there is no self-interest. Everything, it's not about showing his knowledge or his experience. Everything is for us. That is the only reason when you read the book, you feel the book is written for us and for our benefit, nothing else. So what will we cover today? The role of the individual and his place in humanity. And a lot of this chapter is about character. What kind of person, what kind of character should we strive for? How should we lead our lives in a practical way? And what is our duty? So most of you know that if you come along to these talks from me, then there are some learning objectives. So I really think, because the book is written in the way it is, what I want you to really think about is what is a practical aspect of something that he's saying that you might want to reflect or change in your own life. We are going to have a couple of reflective exercises, and I'll be asking you some questions, so be ready. And be aware that you'll be in small groups and you need to communicate. So if you're in your pajamas, you may want to change now. So last week, we were very fortunate to have Rajan Bhai from Nairobi. And obviously the talk was fascinating, and I very much enjoyed it myself. The things that came out to me, for people just to remind you, is Amamuniji is very much, and this is actually a theme throughout his book, Chale Chalo, this theme of moving forward, not standing still, is it really hits you very directly to say, just don't stop, just keep moving forward in your life. And he also talks about, that actually life is a battle, and we can't be cowards, we can't be meek. Life is a battle, and we have to march forward. There is this thing about being hard. As in, if you're hard, then you can take some of those things that happen in your life and continue, because you've got that strength. And if you're tender, then you can help others, you can support others. And so he very much talks about this hardness and tenderness, which is something, again, we don't find in that very direct way stated in books. So this section, so chapter 2 is on man, and if any of you have the book in your hand, we're looking at page 33. It starts, the title is Man. And he really starts this chapter off by really telling us that actually we have so much choice. We can do exactly what we want to do. We have more choice than we are aware of. And really, we need to decide what we want to do. And he says, he wants to retain his human dignity and sense of duty will go to heaven and get liberation. He who falls below the plane of humanity will go to hell and become an animal in the life. So, and then later on, he talks about the fact that actually there is a God embedded inside all of us, that omniscient, the conqueror and the self. And all we need to do is to find ourselves and mend ourselves, cleanse ourselves and make ourselves perfect. And I think that the biggest thing here for us to think about is that we sometimes think we have limitations, but I think what Amamuniji is saying is we have a lot more choices than we're aware of. Then we go on to, duty. And obviously, for those who have read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjun, a lot of the Bhagavad Gita is about doing your duty and not worrying about the results. And Amamuniji says the same thing, and he uses this brilliant example. that really you can plow the field, you can arrange the watering, you do the manuring, you can guard and supervise the field. But actually, which seed is going to sprout is not in your hand. It is completely in the hands of nature. And this is an eternal and universal principle. And the point he's trying to make here is that you just have to keep doing what is in your duty, what you must do, and not really worry about when nature, when your karma, when your good fortune, well, your papin punya will take effect. And therefore, this thing about just continuing to plant the seed, the same thing with March Forward is wherever you go, continue to plant that extra seed. Because if you don't plant the seeds, nothing's going to happen. So you must plant the seed. But what happens after that, there are some limitations. And then he very much talks about the meaning of human life and the meaning of humanity. He says, human life is to bring peace and happiness to every living creature. It is not meant for indulgence in worldly pleasures or for ceaseless struggle for procuring these pleasures. So he then says, well, actually, let's look at things that might tell us that, you know, we're having a good life. And he says the example of, well, what if you could eat some fantastic, you know, high quality food? Does that mean that, you know, that's a sign of humanity working well? And he says, no, not necessarily, because, you know, the cat or dog of a rich person will also get good food, but that doesn't mean anything. Just because you can eat well, that doesn't mean that you're a human being of that high standard. Well, what about the fact that we can build, you know, amazing buildings? We can build the Shard, we can build just some incredible structures in the world. Does that mean, you know, we've just taken a rover to Mars, you know, Perseverance is in Mars. We've had a helicopter fly there. Does that mean that that's a sign that human beings have reached a very high standard? Well, he says no. He says, I mean, look at the intricate way that you know, birds build some nests. They're incredible. You know, that the quality of those nests and the quality of those buildings. That doesn't mean anything. They're just doing those things for their own benefit, you know, and for the benefit of course, their children. Well, what about reciting Sanskrit verses? What about knowing Sanskrit very well? What about the fact that, you know, you can read to a very high standard certain languages? And again, he rejects this. He says, well, so what? He says, I could train a parrot to recite Sanskrit verses. Just because you recite these verses doesn't make you great. And then the last point is, well, what about if you're strong and brave? You can fight big battles. You can protect the weak. Does that mean that you reach the highest standard because you have that ability? You're very strong and brave. You have nuclear weapons, for example. And he says, no, well, that can't be true. You can be strong, brave, and cruel, and we see this as well. That doesn't mean anything. And he really nails it by saying, look, the true humanity lies in high thoughts and noble character. You need both. You need to live a life of actually doing and acting out and being noble, and also having high thoughts. And it's very interesting for anyone who kind of studied Greek philosophy. Aristotle, and I don't know if Amamuniji ever read any Aristotle, but he says exactly the same thing. He says, really, the sign of being a great person is being a virtuous person, and a virtuous person has high thoughts and noble character. So it's nice to see that commonality between great philosophers. This is a really interesting section, the next section, and this is really about selfishness. And I'm on page 36 at the top of it. And he says that when we see selfish people from time to time, what does that mean? You know, should we ignore them? Should we fight them? Should we try and convince them? And Amamuniji very much sees this selfishness as a veneer. It's just sitting at the top of a crust. And actually, it's quite easy to break through. That very selfish person, once you break through that crust, can change. And as he says, once you break the hard crust of selfishness, the stream of nectar of humanity will flow from it. Some quick questions. Anybody recognize a footballer? Unmute and let me know.
Marcus Rashford.
Okay, and what's incredible about him, Paul Ben?
He's a Man United player and he's been awarded an OBE or an MBE by the Queen for doing a service for humanity.
Correct. So Marcus Rashford, footballers, and I'm speaking, maybe what I'm saying is not right, but generally speaking, the reason people become a footballer is to become famous and make a lot of money, right? There's a drive there. But Rashford has got more money than any of us can dream of, but his thoughts are with the poorest of the poor people. His thoughts are with those people who can't afford to eat during out of term. So what an amazing gesture, and he put his heart and soul into doing something for those people. Anybody recognize anybody else? And let me know why you think this example of selfishness just at the crust also applies to them.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes. Who's that?
It's Patrol.
Patulbai, and why? What do you recognize about Scrooge? What's the story?
Well, he was mean, wasn't he? Really. He was mean with his worker, and he wouldn't spend money on anything.
Correct. Not his family. And what about Christmas Day? That was the only day he would give his people a day off, right? That was it. And even that.
Right. He wouldn't give a day off to his worker.
Yeah. And what happened in the end to Ebenezer Scrooge?
He changed, didn't he? After all, the crust was broken, as they say.
That's right. Christmas Carol, and at the end, he realizes in an instant what he's been doing has been wrong, and his mindset changes, right? And that's why Christmas Carol is such a great story. What about Gandhi? Why did Gandhi go to London? Why did Gandhi come to London when he was only 19 years old? Why did he come?
To study law.
Anybody remember?
To study
And
law.
who did he leave behind?
He left behind his wife.
His wife, and I think his son was only 4 months or 5 months old, right? And he stayed in London for 4 years or 5 years, I think. So he came on a mission for his career, right? And he was happy to be away from his family because he really wanted his career, to really flourish. And he did the same thing, right? He went to South Africa. He left his family behind initially because his career wasn't going great in India after he qualified. But look at Gandhi, everything changed, didn't it? He saw injustice in South Africa, and then his whole mindset changed, and he became probably one of the greatest people that we know of all time. And he had only one thought, which was betterment of humanity. So now we're going to talk about what Amamuniji sort of talks about stages, right, in our development, into that aspect of humanity. And he says that the first stage really is, and by the way, as I go through the stages, it doesn't mean that we're all kind of stuck in one stage. We can go up and down. We can go up and down stages, right? So I know this afternoon I really wanted some chocolate, so I was very much thinking about my senses, right? So we go up and down these senses all the time. So there's a small self, which is thinking about pleasures of body and senses. Then there's the second thing, which is very much where we start thinking a bit wider. We start thinking about the preservation, protection of our family. We start thinking about, making sure that they have a quality life and they get well educated and so on. Then we start thinking about protection of the community and the nation. But what Amamuniji is saying is that what we really want to do is thinking about embracing the whole of humanity. So that means we don't see any boundaries or barriers between a Jain and a non-Jain. We don't see a barrier between Pakistan and India. We don't see that suddenly a piece of earth, as you move one foot into a different piece of earth, those people are bad in that country. We don't see anything between young and old. We recognize human beings, not their ages or not their background. And that's what he talks about when he means the whole of humanity, right? It's moving away from these barriers. A great example is in the Trump era, you remember this, make America great again. So what was happening there was Trump was trying to say, look, actually what matters is a community and nation. Isn't that wonderful that we care for our country? But actually what he was saying is that the people outside of America are not worth it. Let's build a wall. Okay. So in a way, that's a massive contradiction. And these are things we need to be very aware of ourselves, not to contradict ourselves. So one question, before, and I don't need an answer, is that I'm sure you've heard stories, and I have anyway, is that people who try to jump the COVID vaccine queue, right? And anyone who kind of thought, well, I'll find a reason, I'll find a way to try and get ahead on this queue, really, why are you helping humanity? And I don't want the answer, but I just want you to reflect, on that. That if we were trying to move up ahead of somebody, how was this really going to help, the country or even the world? Okay. So I want us to have this breakout room. And Nilesh Bhai, you may probably need to give me access to breakout rooms in a minute. Or maybe you could just arrange it for me. So the first question is that Amamuruji says men should enlarge this instinct of self-preservation that he may work for the greater good, work for the good of the whole of humanity. What things can we do that help the whole of humanity, not just your family, friends, and community? Those things, particularly family and friends, we take for granted. Community, it's wonderful that we help the community. And many of us are doing so many things in the community, which is to be applauded. But actually, what things can we do for the whole of humanity? And actually, can we do it, or is it difficult to practice? So I'm going to put you into groups of 3. So if you could spend 5 minutes, and what I'll do is I'll put these questions on chat, so you have them. And then you can come back.
Yes, okay.
Anyone got any questions before we do that?
Oh, yeah, everything can crowded like on mechanical and everything to better set up
Sorry, is it me or I can hardly hear? Is somebody breaking up? Nilesh, are you there?
Yeah, still here. Sorry, I've just made you host. Can you make me co-host? I can mute people, I think.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Okay. Right. You are SCVP London, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. The questions are on chat. Anybody got any questions before you go into the breakout rooms, so that I know that it's clear what you need to do? Okay. How many people? About 15 people. Okay, here we go. Okay, I think that will work. Hang on a minute. Varshaben, I'm going to move you to room 3.
Sure.
And Nilesh, you can join room 3 if you want, or you have a choice. Okay, guys, good luck. 5 minutes to try and answer those questions. You'll see a message come up, join breakout room, and just click yes, and then you'll join that breakout room, okay? And I'll call you all back in 5 minutes. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I hope you had a good conversation. We'll have room one first, Bindi Ben, Parul Ben, and Rashna Ben. Three ladies together. Can we have somebody to speak to the answer to what things can we do to help the whole of humanity, not just family, friends, community? And is it difficult to practice this? Who'd like to speak, please, for that group?
Bindi, would you like to do it?
I was just going to say, my video is not working, but yeah, but basically we thought of a few things that we can actually help out. Firstly, you know, there's lots of mental issues. So we can pick up the phone and talk to people who are lonely. And just, even if you look on your road, there might be somebody who is elderly who need your help. So you can start off little by little like that. And then the other question was, you know, the good for everybody, the global. So the first thing that came to everyone's mind was the climate change, how we should do our bit to reduce wastage and really think about how we can impact, you know, the reduction of what's happening in the world due to the climate, the global, you know, change. And we also linked it to aparigraha and ahimsa. So the two important things that links Jainism to these the matters.
Excellent, excellent. I love the local and the global. So the local is just look at your street, start with your street, and really don't worry about who lives on the street, whether they're what their background is or whatever. Can you help your neighbor? If you can, you should. And the other one is the global one with climate change. Fantastic, thank you. Room 2, we have Harshna Ben, Kruti, Rasik Bhai, and Sonia Ben. Who's your spokesperson, please?
Kruti Ben, go.
I think Harshna, you should share your point and what we discussed.
Well, we did talk about the environment, and so I think Sonia, when you'll talk about that. That I think that would help. But my point was organ donation, where you know, if we were registered with the charity, and hopefully, you know, that's a charity which reaches out globally, because, you know, just from the recent case of where we found out that, you know, it's such a rare thing when you're looking for something, how difficult it is. So that was one. It would be fair if Sonia Ben talks about environment.
Thanks. So yeah, no, I think climate change was on our agenda as well. And I was just saying, because I've had the great opportunity to actually drive and lead climate change place I work in.
Oh wow!
So that's really made a difference. And I think the more I've gotten involved, the more I've read about it, and again, it's because being in the UK and you know, just on a work connotation, the UK is leading globally on driving a lot of changes. So it's been a great opportunity, because kind of like network globally as well now on what changes we need to bring in to save the planet. And I was just saying that it becomes really rewarding, not rewarding to be recognized outside, but rewarding that you want to make that difference and lead the change. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
Thank you. Now that's both, again, very useful, where we can donate, give something that can help everyone globally, as Harshna Ben said. And Sonia Ben, what I'm picking up from you is that we are, with the climate change things, it's connected, all of humanity. We're all connected. We can't escape it. Nobody can escape it. And actually doing something to lead that also connects us with everyone in the world. And I think you're very right, because every time we hear a good story on climate change, we don't look at the person or what country they're from or their age. We just connect with what they're saying, which is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, the third one is my dad, Hina Ben, Nilesh Bhai, and Varsha Ben. Who'd like to speak, please?
I'll ask Hina Ben. She had a lot to say. Hina Ben, are you there?
Hi, how are you? Okay, so we had a couple of things. One was chanting for humanity without any conditions, not saying chanting for my family or my friends only, but sending your love, light, and universal blessing throughout humanity, especially what's happening right now. So in your prayers, morning, night, you can always add that blessing towards humanity. And the second point was to give your time unconditionally, whenever you can. Selflessly give your time to charities and to causes that help humanity. And the second point about whether it was difficult or not, we say, no, actually, it's not difficult. It's just your mind blockage. You just need to release that and say, you can do it whenever you can. You can chant daily and you can give your time occasionally or daily if you can, if it's possible. So those were the 2 points, main points.
Excellent, Hina. Excellent, Hina, and the group. And I think the thing about the global connection is there's nothing now stopping us connecting globally to other organizations, other people, because we have the technology right here to make us do that. And on the sending good blessings, it's really funny. I was just reading my son's newsletter from his school, and the first page is, we're all united in wanting India to get better from COVID. This is his local school. I think there's virtually very few Indians there anyway, and that was on their front page. And I just thought that was wonderful. That this school is thinking about other people at this time, and the headlines are not something about the school, but about wanting to have good thoughts for people in a different country. Okay, last but not least, we have Sandeep Bhai. I think Bakul Bhai is Rasila Ben as well, right? Yeah, and Rita Ben and Bakul Bhai, please. Who's going to speak, please?
Rita Ben, go.
Okay.
When you have a group of teachers, when you have a group of teachers, they all become very shy, which is very disappointing, I must say.
So we talked about a few things, and one of the things we said is that to go out there to help is it is quite a difficult thing to do. And not everyone can do it. There are some really brave, fearless people who will go out there and give their services to others, but others will find it difficult, and maybe there are constraints as well. But we talked about the fact that prayers are really important, which is what earlier groups have talked about, but also what Bhagwan Mahavir's message, which was friendship with all. So having that power of friendship with all. You don't have to be a friend like a physical connection, but it's about that power of friendship with all. I think that's all we talked about. And then we also talked about the fact that, is it easy even to have that power of friendship with all? It isn't easy because we are so embroiled in our own life that we forget. But Sandeepai, you had a nice point. Sandeepai, do you want to add to that?
Sorry, what point did I say? I've forgotten.
about the vow and how that continuous vow is not always there.
Yeah, so what happens is that it's very nice to say that, oh, we can reach out to people and we can do this. The will is always there, but sometimes the means are not there, as Rita Ben mentioned. And I think at times, as Rita Ben mentioned, we get embroiled in our own daily existence that we forget about the wider world. But at the same time, with constant awareness, which is what these classes create, is that even if we fall backwards, we are at the same time made aware that, hang on, we need to think about bigger issues. And then we go back and we will either, donate or do something, as somebody mentioned about the environment, to take an active part in improving the environment, to active part. And a prime example is when there was a problem in Nepal, Rita Ben and Bakul Bhai actually went from here with the Sadhvijis and joined the Sadhvijis in Nepal to help out, and they stayed for I think over a month or 2 months, if I can't remember. So there are people who do that, but you need backing of some sort. You cannot isolatedly just say that, oh, I'll go and do this, because it doesn't work. So although the will is there, sometimes you don't. But I think you need it. Constant reminders keep coming to you that no, you hang on, you need to do it. So you will do it in whatever ways and means you can.
Thank you, brilliant, thank you. Right, I'm going to carry on, but I think one thing I really liked from that is Rita Ben, you talked about prayers and having people in your thoughts, and I know often even if someone can't help you, the fact that they're thinking of you and you know they're thinking of you can be a massive support for people. And I know, for example, with India, people are just sending messages, and that itself is lifting people and making people feel good. So I think that's an excellent point.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yes.
Rita Ben, Rasila Ben, and a group of people, few times a week they get together. So those who wish to join can join. They get together and they pray for half an hour for world.
There you are. Are you there? Have I lost anybody?
Sandip, I was saying, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that they are doing prayers. So people who wish to join, they can join, because they are very, very positive, powerful prayers.
Okay, I don't know if that's open to everybody, but Rita Ben, maybe
yeah,
we
it
can
is
post
open
that on the chat.
It's open to everyone.
Yeah, it's open for everyone.
Fine. So maybe we can send that out, right? And that's again,
yeah,
absolutely great.
I'm
going to move on. Unless somebody wants to say something.
Sorry, can I just add something about how difficult it is? In our group, we talked about how difficult is it to think about for the whole humanity, because we often think about our nearest and dearest and community and help them. But when we talk about thinking about doing something for humanity, it is quite difficult to go beyond our community and all. And what about sometimes, like you have mentioned you posed a question about yourself, that how many of us have jumped the queue and those sort of things. So sometimes inaction, not taking any action, can help humanity as well, where we can just sit back and not think about our own self-interest.
That's actually also a very good point. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to continue. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on. I want to have one more breakout, so I want to make sure we do that. So we're now going to talk about, Amamuniji says, let's talk about service and giving, and when should you start giving? And he poses this question that sometimes what people say, oops, let me just put the slide on. Sometimes what people say is, look, I'm a small, humble person. I can only do so much. And actually, I'm striving hard to, have a bigger name for myself, to have more money, more wealth. When I have more, I'll give more. I'm going to do even greater things. I'm going to help, more people in the world. He's saying that in this vast world, the power of common man is very insignificant. He can do very little service. But the success of man does not depend upon the greatness or smallness of his power. The successful man is one who successfully employs a little power he has in the service of humanity. A drop of water that has quenched the thirst of a particle of dust has succeeded in achieving its goal in life. It is to be praised for. We give you a simple example. This is a stat from 2009 US, but I also have some UK stats for more recent, is if you look at the proportion of the poor people who give their money, it is much, much higher than the highest paying people. So in the US, for example, 4.3% of income is given to charity by the lowest paid, but only 2.1% by the highest paid. So in totality, there are more poor people. Guess what? Poor people together give a lot more than the richest people, okay? But what do we do? How do we measure success? We measure success by the amount of money given, okay? Not by the the power of that person and how much he contributed within their means. And what Amamoniji is really saying is that the little power you have, whatever you can do, whatever small thing you can do, then we can start with prayer, employ that in the service of humanity. Don't wait till you are more powerful. Don't wait till you're more influential. Don't wait till you sort of higher up in some chain. Start giving. Give little, and that itself is success. By giving, the giving itself is success, not the amount you give. Okay, we're now going to go straight into breakout 2, and I'm going to say a bit more when we come back, okay? So one of the quotes he says, and really I'm going to spend about 5 minutes discussing this once we come out of breakout 2, he says, don't be afraid. When suffering and difficulties come, don't be afraid. They're a touchstone to test the metal, your metal. I want you to really think about why is Amamuniji really emphasizing this suffering and difficulty to say, don't be afraid. And ask yourself this question: what about difficulties you had in the past? What happened? I mean, you don't have to share the personal details, but how do you look at it now? How do you look at difficulty that you had in the past? And by that question, what about future difficulties that are definitely going to come? If you're a human being, you're not going to avoid difficulties. So sadly, whether we like it or not, there are going to be future difficulties. How are you going to treat those difficulties for you, your family, and your children? And the last question, if you have time, is can you really run away from difficulties? If you run away, how will they find us? Okay, so I've asked you a lot there in that time, and I'll post that on the chat in a second. And I'm going to put you into different breakout rooms so you have different people with you. Okay, I hope you're all ready. Right, here we go. So we have, right, hopefully you'll all be with somebody new. Good luck. Oh, hang on a second. Right, that will work. Good luck. You have 5 minutes again.
Oh, good.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had enough time. Okay, are we all ready? So remember the questions about difficulties in the past, and what does this mean? What did what's the significance of looking back at those difficulties? And can we really run away from difficulties? So let's start to keep you all on your toes. We're going to start with room 4, which is Sandip Bhai, I think Rashila Ben and Varsha Ben. Can we have a spokesperson, please? And what did you come up with?
Sandeep?
Sandeep, please.
Oh, sorry, Rasila, you speak.
No, Varsha, come on.
Sandeep, you had a ton to say, so you better say it, and then Rasila Ben and I will do our input.
Okay. The first thing we said was that we looked at Amar Muni Jain, this theme that you started off with, Ketan Bhai, about Chale Chalo. So you have to move forward in life, no matter what difficulties come. And also, his famous poem where he says that bandhan bandhan kya karte ho, bandhan man ke bandhan hai, jago utho jhatka do, bandhan kshan ke bandhan hai. That's what he says. And that's what he basically is saying, that have courage, move forward, carry on, no matter what difficulties are inevitable. Now, Rasila and Varsha, can you add on, please?
So we said the difficulties help. What he's trying to say is difficulties will actually form you, will help to toughen you up and make you wiser and more resilient. So don't shy away from difficulties. That's what he's trying to say with the phrase or his quote. Yeah. That's what we think.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Yes, Varsha, in that moment when you are facing difficulties and you've gone through all the phases, those difficulties, you can now face the future knowing how to deal with things, and you can advise other people within your own community, your family, your inner circle, because you've had experiences, and it's those experiences which has toughened you up, and you help others with that toughness looking forward.
Thank you so much. Good. I'm not going to comment because I'm going to read what Amar Muniji says in a second. Room 3, we have Bindi Ben, Hina Ben, and Rita Ben. Spokesperson, please.
Hina Ben or Rita Ben.
Hina Ben, kame karo. Hina Ben, pacha we can add.
Okay, Jai Jinendra. So yeah, one of the things that we talked about was forgiving and letting it go. As human beings, we tend to keep everything to heart. We take everything to heart and we don't want to let go. So that actually creates more difficulty for us in life. And when we act with forgiveness every day, and we have to live it every day and just let it go. That was one of the points. The other point is actually trying to practice maiti and love as well. The way Mahir Bhagwan says, friendship to all. Try to practice that on a daily basis, and that helps as well. So you don't get affected by other people as much, even if they, if you have the same feelings for other people, you can actually overcome a lot of your difficulties in life. And I think I gave my example of how angry I'd become as an adult. Over time, you just keep on, because you're not letting go, and it's just building up. Your heart is so disturbed that it comes out as an emotion, either worry, anger, fear, whatever it is, the emotion is. And mine was anger and bitterness. And over the last 2 years, I've practiced forgiveness. And it has helped so much. It has helped, and I've become more happier and calmer. And, it's helped me. So I don't know, what other points did we have in the Rita Ben? And
well done, Hina Ben, for that achievement.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, Hina Ben.
Thank you.
Anything else to add, Rita Ben?
So one thing which we had said is also that we are not strong enough, so circumstances will always absorb us, rather than so we get sort of torn in circumstances.
Right. Great. And we're going to talk about what Amar Muniji says about circumstances in a second. Room 2, Hashna Ben, my dad, Rasik Bhai, and Sonia Ben. Is there anything you want to share?
Rasik Bhai, do you want to share?
I say that from past experiences, we become a strong personality. You learn something out of it, and it molds you for the future to face future difficulties.
Thank you, Rasik Bhai. Anything else anybody want to add from that group?
I just wanted to add that it also depends on your attitude towards life as well. Whether you're a positive, an optimistic person or a negative person. So depending on whatever situation you have, if you're a negative person, it might start spiraling you down. But maybe there might be a turning point, where you might start thinking, okay, this is it. I'm not going to let this affect me anymore, and start rising to the challenge.
And you move on. Okay,
yeah.
I understand. Room 1, Kruti, Parul Ben, Rashna Ben, and Nilesh Bhai. Who's going to summarize?
Kruti?
Oh, I think maybe we've lost anybody else.
Parul, you can do it.
As everyone knows what's happened to me in the past, I've been involved in an accident which had left me in a terrible state. But rather than me looking back on that, you move forward. You do what help you can do, either by helping charities or helping in doing voluntary work.
Thank you so much, Parul Ben, for sharing that, and you're a living example, right, of moving forward. So thank you.
Captain Pay, I've written an article on that. I'll forward the article to Nishfai. You can forward it to everyone else, if you can.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to thank you very much, everybody, for what you've said. I just want to go on to say a little bit about what Amar is saying. So I think Rita Ben mentioned circumstance. So we now go on to circumstance. We now go into circumstance and also the path of greatness. And when I read this, I kind of did a complete double take. I was like, are you really saying that? And what really brings this out to me is that when these challenges come, it's really our mindset to them that exemplifies everything. It's not what we do after, but it's what we do at the time that challenge comes. And this is a couple of things I just want to quote. He says, circumstances are nothing, man is supreme. Can circumstances forcibly bring down or raise a man? No, it is not possible. Man is an independent being. He's not a toy in the hands of circumstance. The strong man can control and govern his circumstance. He can make even the unfavorable circumstance favorable to him. He can mold the circumstance to his liking. Man is the conqueror, not the slave of circumstance. So you can see how strong he's about this, and also difficult for us to maybe see things like that in our mindset when we have such bad things that might happen to us. But you see, Amar Muniji has deeply experienced things that he wants to share with us. Then he talks about the ideal of Mahadeva, which on page 42, which again, when I read this, I thought, really? And then I had to read it about 3 times. And I'll just explain something Yashaji said to me this week as well in one of her discourses. So here's what he says. He says, everyone is eager to drink nectar, but I want to become eternal and immortal by drinking poison. I do not want a bed of flowers. I want the path strewn with thorns. I can walk more steadily in the darkness than in the light. I fear that pleasures and happiness might betray me. I want sorrow, deep sorrow, fierce like tempest and burning like the forest fire. This sorrow will not let me sleep during my journey of life. It will keep me awake. And really, when that difficult time comes in our life, what happens? We become awake, we become alert, we start reflecting. And I think that's the point he's trying to make. And Nyashati Maharaj said something really interesting this week. She said, if happiness knocks on your door, if someone wants to give you a present, open the door, let them in, take the present, say thank you. Says, if something bad comes into your life, open the door, let it in. Don't shut the door on it, because guess what? It's going to come back and hit you in another way, and you're going to try and reject it, but it's going to come anyway. So again, open the door and welcome, things that maybe outside your control that hit you. And I'm still trying to come to terms with what he's saying, but you can see he's talking from deep practice and deep understanding. And the way I make sense of this is that when I look back in my own experience at, bad circumstances, it has made me very alert, has woken me up, it has made me reflect a lot. Okay, I'm just going to move on one more slide. I'm not aware of the time. So what the other thing I was going to say is that when you see this, then you start seeing these sort of comments from all sorts of people, from the mother and Sri Aurobindo, from a whole host of people. So this is something that I think is very common with very great people, with supermen, as Amma Muniji puts down. And I just want to finish off on this incredible point, which he says, common men are always looking for great favorable opportunity to show off their greatness. Sometimes everything happens that's right for you, and then suddenly you're great. But he says opportunities come unsought to the great man. Not that the opportunity really comes to them, but they make the small opportunities great. And this really brought to me when COVID hit us a year ago. How many of us, of course, we didn't want the world to suffer. How many of us thought, oh my God, this is a brilliant opportunity. This is a great opportunity to reflect, to change our lifestyle, to really think deeper about what we want to do in our life. Or how many of us were caught up in the fear? And this is exactly the point he's making, that in every single circumstance, there is opportunity for us to improve and march forward. We don't have to wait for that great moment. We can do it. We can do it all the time. So we are finished for now. I hope that the learning objectives were met. About what Amma Muniji is saying, I strongly suggest you read this book. It is absolutely one of the most amazing books I've ever read, and he speaks from direct experience.
Ketan,
and I hope. Sorry.
Ketan,
Yes.
can I ask, is the hard copy available on Amazon, or is it something where can
No,
you...
Rita Ben or Sandeep Bhai may know not more, but from what I know, it isn't. But what I would suggest is, I think a lot of the shops are open, so I would just suggest you send it to a printer and get it printed yourself.
Varsha, it's out of print.
What I'm planning to do.
Sorry, Ketan Bhai, Varsha, it's out of print. But what you can do is you can actually print out from the soft copy and then use it. Because it has been out of print for many years.
Yeah,
okay, no problem.
I think there is a new, I think a lot of teachers might have got it, because it's called Eternal Wisdom. So that's another name for Amavani. It's the same thing. So you might have that as a copy.
Okay. I was also wondering for our audience if yeah.
It's a new, like Sandeep said, the Amavani itself is out of print, but this is a new version of the same thing.
Great, that's fantastic. Yeah, and for our audience, if I think you've got the link up there, right? They can download it and print it at home.
Yeah, the link is on the WhatsApp and it's on the chat. Okay, next week we have Sandeep Pai, who is going to continue with the next section of this wonderful book on youth. And I just wanted to say a special thanks to Bina Ben Shai Nairobi, because she kicked off this book a year ago, and I've been spending my Wednesday lunchtimes studying with her. And Nichami Dukram for any errors made. I thought we'd finish off. I love listening to Amma Muniji's voice, so I thought we'd finish off with Manglik by Amma Muniji.
Siddhamangalam Sahu Mangalam Kevali Panato Dhammo Mangalam Yatari Logutama Yarenda Logutama Siddha Logutama Sahu Logutama Kevali Panato Dhammo Logutama Yatari Sharanam Pavajyami Arahante Sharanam Pavajyami Siddhe Sharanam Pavajyami Sahu Sharanam Pavajyami Kevali Panatam Dhammam Sharanam Pavajyami.
Thank you so much. Hand it back over to Varshaben.
Wow. I really didn't expect that, Ketan Bhai. It certainly sounds like somebody who's very, very knowledgeable and wise, and that he's sitting in top of a mountain somewhere, and that voice is just spreading. I'd love to have a copy of it on my phone so I can listen to it at night before I go to bed. Thank you so much for a really interesting evening, Ketan. Really enjoyed the breakout rooms and discussing the topics. I wish we had a bit more time, you know. There was so much to say and discuss, but a lovely evening, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I hope everyone else did. We look forward to seeing you all next week with the continuation with Sandeep Bhai next week on Amar Muni and Eternal Wisdom. If you haven't got the book, download from the link. Wish you a wonderful bank holiday weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy your garden, and get your vitamin D basically, and take care of yourselves. Bye. Jai Jinendra.
Ketan Bhai, thank you.
Thank you, Ketan Bhai.